we're recording. Got some fat lighter. Fat lighter. Smells good.
Is that what it's called? Fat lighter?
Fat wood. My dad called it fat lighter. And so it burns really well. Like it's got oils in it.
I was gonna say, does it have some kind of fat in it?
It's got oil.
Oil.
Yeah. Let's see. And we'll get some little stuff. Oops. Then we'll throw the bigger stuff. It'd be funny if it doesn't work, but that's only the perfectionist in me that gets upset when things don't work.
Mm-hmm.
Let's fail on camera. Like that time I busted my butt in front of 10,000 people at a football game. Or I couldn't sing well in front of hundreds of people.
I hear it.
What's that?
I hear the crackling.
Yeah, I think it's gonna work. It's a bigger one. Make sure the vent's open. Yeah. We'll just let that start.
Mm-hmm. You want to turn off that light over there, or do you like that light? Does it take away?
I'm going to turn off the light. There we go. All right. Coffee, fire. Coffee check, fire check, mic check.
Was our first video titled Coffee with Kim and Gavin?
Years ago.
Oh, years ago. Okay. Yeah, we're actually being truthful. We actually have coffee today.
Yeah, and the thumbnail with the fireplace is a little more honest.
Yeah, we actually have a fire. This could be your thumbnail.
Yeah, so the original thumbnail was in the spirit.
It was in the idea in the head.
There was an idea.
It went completely false.
So this is a practice that one of our practices is starting a fire in the mornings, and it doesn't last long, but it's connected to cutting up wood into smaller pieces of kindling so that it'll burn faster and hotter, so there's no smoke in the house.
Yeah.
But I thought it was interesting, you had a video where you made some corn tortillas.
Mm-hmm. Homemade corn tortillas with minimal ingredients. That was the goal.
Corn tortillas with minimal ingredients. But you had feedback and said it wasn't wet enough, or
The comment was just too dry.
too dry. And what's funny about that is that people have different ideas about what is the right way to do things.
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously I'm not, I don't claim to be a professional cook or a professional in the field of authentic Mexican cuisine.
Well,
But yeah, I think it's like goal oriented. So like, what's your end goal? Are you trying to like make something with minimal ingredients, unprocessed ingredients, or are you trying to be authentic to that, I guess, certain type of cuisine? I'm not sure.
well, Chad said something about a meal that his mom makes, and so sometimes people,
Yeah,
you know,
there's
they have
definitely.
they have the memory of the
Right.
meal that was made by their mom, and it's like,
It's nostalgic, and it's like a tradition, a family tradition. So like, people can look in on your cooking and kind of say, this is blasphemy.
that's right.
It's like my mom, and they, there's a history and a culture and a memory and a nostalgic type feeling.
There's a relationship.
Especially around food. I feel like food is there's everybody has a food that reminds them of their mom or cooking or home or there's everybody has that. It doesn't matter where you come from. Even you, Gavin, you have that. What would be yours? What would be the Palmer Boys?
Sardines and Vienna sausages.
No, come on, dig deep.
Fried fish.
Dig deep. No. What about Boogie Boogie?
Well, I only had that a couple times, but it was just a good story.
Oh, it's a good story.
Because my
What
dad
about the
made...
Pomerowskis?
Well, I'll tell the story. Yeah, Pomerowski.
There's all these funny things.
No, I mean, the thing that has the best memories for me would be the fish fry. Catching fish and going over to Danny Kutek's house, and he would fry the fish and fry the crinkle fries, and we'd watch National Geographic. And,
Yeah, there's a whole memory around it.
And it was a deep relational connection.
Yeah.
With many connections, so like with food, you can have smells and tastes and memories of someone who died. But
Yeah, so when you get comments like that, it's just people coming from their, their memories and their experiences. I don't ever let it affect me at all.
I also think there could be trolls.
I'm glad it's dry because like that probably means it doesn't have like added oils and butters and I'm trying to not to eat that stuff,
Here's the comment. Let's see.
What's your comment?
You need to see a psychiatrist.
Oh. I don't know. Honestly, okay, so maybe some of your videos, that would be like, okay, I can see why people would say that. But in that particular video, I feel like it was lighthearted and like, it was kind of silly but serious, but like, I just don't know where somebody would get that kind of comment for that video, that particular video.
The danger with that idea, there's a danger with dehumanizing people.
Mm-hmm.
And so if we had a world where we needed to if we stopped trusting people, which is really what's happening with identity theft and scam email, and there's so many fakes. But there's people who live in a world where they trust people. Mm-hmm. And so when they encounter someone who's not extending trust to people, it can appear to be dehumanizing. And when you act in a way and say things in a way that would be dehumanizing, that's dangerous because, Hitler dehumanized.
Yeah.
Right? And so, I mean, they might be coming from that place, but they could just be a troll.
Yeah, it could be.
The troll, that's a weird word. The reason I wanted to bring up the corn tortillas was because of like the word Christian. Like people similarly they associate so much. That word Christian carries a lot of deep relational connections, and so you can have different people who use that word in different ways, and it carries different things. That word is it's like this container which creates boundaries and is a kind of categorization. And when you use the word the wrong way, they can become offended.
Yeah. You kind of when it comes to like I kind of look to kids. Like, kids can teach us a lot as far as like you can really see it in like little kids where they try to make sense of their world. And so I think that's what adults are doing too. They're just trying to make sense of the world, and so they, you know, they do stuff like that. They you know, define a
Instead of
certain.
saying they, you can say we.
We, yeah,
Yeah,
we do stuff like that for sure. And you know, what makes sense to us and how we interpret the world is how we act in the world. So that's all people are really trying to do. And so if they believe a certain way, or if we believe a certain way, what a Christian is, or if we believe a certain way how you make corn tortillas and it makes sense to you and there's a feeling and a connection, then that's how you're going to behave. And that's how you're going to speak.
Well, it doesn't mean that you're perfect, right? I think that's why we have to
No,
be humble.
not at all. But it's the way you make sense of the world.
Well, when you make a statement like, you need to go see a psychiatrist, or too dry, you know, or not a Christian because you don't believe in that, you know, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so what's
You got to be humble when you.
Yeah, it'd be nice.
We need to be humble.
It'd honestly be nice if people, these short comments people make, it'd be nice to be like, I would love for you to expand, because honestly, I would love to learn to make authentic corn tortillas from somebody who's been doing it for years. Like, how do you do it? You know what I mean?
Well,
Like, if they're too dry, tell me why and how to fix that.
I guess my thing.
I guess a lot of people don't want to.
Well,
it's so easy just to make a short comment. You know what I mean? It's so easy just to do that.
I mean,
And then just like exit the page and don't even care. It's like.
Yeah, you're
you know.
right. And it's also easy just to receive a short
And then it's
comment
like-
as well, and not try to develop or cultivate a relationship.
On one of my videos, I did get a comment. This is gonna be funny. It was like a barfing face comment
Barfing face comment.
for my lasagna. You've
Yeah.
had lasagna.
And it tasted great.
But you know, we're not authentically, you know, we're not authentic, you know, lasagna makers. But I said,
Your dad might not like your lasagna.
yeah, I don't
because of the
know.
herbs.
Yeah, whatever. You know, people have different tastes or whatever. So instead of like being mad at the bar, it actually kind of made me laugh. I was like, that's hilarious, by the way. And then I asked, I said, well, how would you do it differently? And I'm being like,
I remember this.
yeah, and I actually put some words before that, like, you know, I'm actually curious of how you would do it differently. And then this person, just because I asked that question, this person like went into this whole in-depth explanation of how, you know, obviously he's from a family who's made a lot of lasagna, you know, and,
Well, it
and
reminds me
it's
of-
like authentic, like they stew the meat all day long and they like do
That-
all
yeah,
this. And
That
they-
reminds me of our buddy
and
Morgan,
never
for example.
add whole tomatoes. Okay, don't do that to your lasagna, y'all, because it makes it watery. We kind of like the whole tomatoes, though.
Well, I mean, maybe they have a good point. Because sometimes it does get watery.
Right. So
Right.
so it was interesting. So I wish people, if they were gonna comment, maybe they're just waiting for you to ask, how would you do it? You know.
Yeah. I
So-
mean, I think that's a fair point.
I think, yeah, sometimes people just get so worked up on the way they do things is the right way. And so I try not to be like that when it comes to cooking, because I know that I have so much to learn.
But sometimes though you do ask, and then they write a book in response,
Mhm.
and then now you got to read a book,
Well, now I got a recipe I can try.
or and what's even worse is if they go point you at 3 books to read. The guy who helped like manage the Bridges of Meaning Discord server, he had a rule. He said that you don't give me any homework. It was just like, because he wasn't interested in this kind of thing we're talking about, where you would go and, you know, try to understand the other person and cultivate this kind of deeper relationship, practice listening, practice knowing the other person and what they're trying to communicate. He just wanted to just do these kind of superficial interactions.
Yeah.
Or maybe just talk about things where you try to find the thing that you can relate on.
I do wonder what type of person, like, will go to a video, and if they don't like it, like, what's the type of person that, like, has to comment the short comment and then leave? versus the type of person who's like, I don't really enjoy this video, so I'm not gonna watch the rest, or I'm not gonna follow this person. I'm just gonna leave without saying anything. So like, that's two different types of people. Like, some people just have to add their comment and then just like, you know.
Oh yeah, that's a good point.
Like, it's like, what makes somebody just like,
Well,
I don't really like the way this person is speaking, so I'm just not gonna like follow them, and I'm just gonna like, you know, leave. But instead, this person's like, you need to go see a psychiatrist. It's like, why?
Well, I love that question because it's exactly what's inside of me. Like when we went climbing and the kids were on the race wall where you can time yourself, and they're like 700. It said 72 milliseconds. It was 0.72, and they had another one. It was 0.25, and they said 25 milliseconds, and I'm just like, it was just so hard for me not to correct them. I say, no, it's not 25 milliseconds, it's 250 milliseconds, because there's 1,000 milliseconds in a second, right? And you got to know fractions and ratio. And this is all in my head, and it's just driving me a little bit crazy not to correct them when they're wrong. Now, sometimes we want to correct people when we're wrong, even though we think we're right. And sometimes you're right and you want to correct people, but I'm learning just to not worry about correcting people when they're wrong. But that's what it is, I think, is this kind of compulsion to correct people when they're wrong. And it's been with me my entire life.
I mean, I've definitely experienced that too. I have always leaned more on just like, I'm just gonna not listen anymore to this video if I don't, you know, or, you know, just listen, maybe you'll learn something. I don't know. I'm not really the controversy. I don't want to stir up stuff. That's not who I am, really.
Well, what's interesting about that is the golden rule. Treat people the way you want to be treated.
So if you're a person who wants to be corrected, you can go around trying to correct people, but then when you try to correct someone who doesn't like to be corrected, all of a sudden you have what could be confrontation with violence, you know, at some point.
I've seen it. I've seen it. Whoops.
You think there's going to be a comment on how you start fires?
There might be. I know that some people, I remember being...
From a person who is a professional fire maker?
Well, there's some people who say, you need a box. And some people who say, you need a teepee. And some people who...
They're just... And it's like, well, what are you trying to do? You know? Are you trying to create a lot of smoke?
Well, maybe. That's actually a legit... If you're smoking food, you might want to create a lot of smoke. Here's the wood. Oh. We don't want to burn anything.
That's pretty toasty.
I mean, and the thing is if they try to correct me, I could come at it with the humble perspective instead of the...
I think that's the lesson. It's like I know comments can be hard and for people, and just because you put time and energy into whatever you're putting out there in the world, but yeah, just I guess remain humble and try to have empathy and try to see why they said this certain thing. But yours was a little bit meaner, though. Your comment was.
That takes effort. Though. What's interesting about like the psychotherapist is that I was talking to Webster about how there's people who believe in God who can use a certain language, and there's people who don't believe in God who use a different language. And so saying, you know, someone who doesn't believe in God could say, you need to go see a psychotherapist, and someone who does believe in God would say, you need to go talk to the pastor. You know?
Yeah, maybe.
And what it's basically, you know, there's something that's not right that needs to be worked out. And yeah. But it comes off as if the way these things come off is as if you believe you know what's right and wrong, good and bad. And if you're in that spirit, it's hard to juggle that spirit with a humble spirit. Can you know you're right and be humble and willing to consider that you might be wrong simultaneously? I think you can cultivate that. My old CTO says, is it strong opinions held weakly? Or strong opinions held loosely? So it's cool when there's a kind of a contradiction or a paradox there. Paul Vanderklay actually had a recent sermon where he talks about how Jesus kind of embodies the contradictions. I think that's powerful. It's also not natural and it's difficult.
Mm-hmm.
It's even, there's a way of being in which you look at that and you smell someone who can't be trusted because they aren't being consistent.
Yeah.
They aren't being cohesive. That's a weird word, cohesive. I wonder what the sound of that fire is like. I think every time there's a crackle, it's getting picked up. Like every sound, even that sound. I know we put on videos of just a fire and the sounds the fire makes.
Yeah.
There's some popular videos like that.
Yeah. When we didn't have a fireplace, we would put them on. Remember?
Yeah, we'd put it on the big screen. A crackling fireplace.
Mm-hmm.
You can kind of remember all the fires you've been around. There's probably like a connection, or there's a bunch of memories we each have of all the fires we've been to.
Most of my fires were outside, around the fire pit. We had fireplaces growing up, but they were always like gas, just easy. They weren't like, you didn't get the crackles and the pops and the real heat. But
So this is a warm fire.
growing up, we always had a fire pit that you'd make big fires and pop popcorn and stuff. So this reminds me of that because it's like real wood and real fire.
I remember being at on the beach, not at the ocean, but at the river, when the water's down, and there would be a giant dead log, and we'd build the fire next to the log, and it would start burning away a little cavity inside of the giant log, and then it would create this kind of an oven, and it would get so hot that you could start to melt glass in it. Because you could feed it, and even the walls would be on fire, even the walls of the log, and it was like this giant cavity. Pretty cool. I remember going out in the woods, being scared to go get firewood at night in the woods. I'm a little scaredy cat. Like one of our children.
Oh, I was like that when I was younger. Even like the fires I'm talking about, sitting around the fire pit. You know, my parents are completely relaxed out there, and I'm just always looking around, you know, because it's dark and the woods are there.
I felt like it would be good to go out in the woods and just camp by myself for a few nights. Just to overcome that, make sure all that gets, removed and replaced, with something.
Well, you're probably less scared than you were back then.
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, when we're outside at night here, it's, one of our children is very scared. Actually, two, the girls are, And I'm not at all anymore, but I can relate to them because I was at one point.
There might be something about being small,
Yeah, I mean,
and also like,
and so in your experience, like, you know, they might have more of an imagination of what could be out in those woods and stuff, where we kind of have more of a concrete idea of like the actual threats.
yeah. Yeah, I know my dad would say he's more scared of a big city,
Yeah.
walking down an alley in a big city than he is being in the middle of the woods.
Yeah, so like I would much rather camp in the middle of the woods by myself than go camp in a city street by myself.
Yeah. Because humans are the
And I
monsters.
don't really want to go camp by myself anywhere, honestly. But if I had to choose between the woods or the city, I would choose the woods.
That's the thing, like, the real monsters are humans.
Pretty much. I
I
mean,
mean, you could have a cougar and a crocodile or an alligator or
Well, you
a
could have-
bear,
yeah, coyote,
A wolf.
wolf.
but they're actually, I think,
I think we have bobcats here. There's wild hogs.
but they don't seem as scary as a human.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully they're more, like you could scare them off easier than a human. Yeah. There's humans here that, like in the woods.
Hmm?
Aren't there, I mean, if you go up to the river, there'd be humans.
But humans who are out in the woods might be, I guess the question is like, are they people who get up early in the morning and go hunting and fishing and camping? What kind of human is that compared to?
You know my theory.
Compared to the humans who are, that you might find in the alley
Yeah, you're right.
in the middle of the city. Like it takes a little bit of discipline. And another situation takes a little less discipline. It's like there's like a trap for people without discipline. Like some kind of an attractor. There's attractors in this world. This is where the people without discipline end up. The people who are, in the secular language, the people who have addictions. But there are
Well,
people
you
who
can-
get addicted to catching fish and
Yeah, I was gonna say,
shooting
you can have addictions anywhere you are.
animals. Did you want to talk any more about anything?
I don't know, I feel like this video is kind of boring.
People
Are we
can
boring?
Are we boring?
Are we boring today?
Well,
The fire's kind of like mesmerizing.
But that's actually an interesting thing because we want to teach our children to learn how to be bored.
Or that maybe not learn how to be bored, but being okay with being bored.
It would be nice to have joy in doing nothing. I hear a child. Here he comes.
That's a Webster. Oh,
Is it over? Are we going to turn off our recording now that Webster's awake?
hi, buddy.
All right.
Me, miny, mo, catch a tiger by your toe. If you hug the ring, me, miny, mo, mama.
Oh, I get a hug first.
Alrighty. Look at this, Webster. We got the fire, and we got a camera, and we have a microphone. So I'm about to turn it off. Did you want to say anything to the microphone?
No.
No? Alright. Alright, guys. Have a good day. Let us know what you think. Bye-bye.